Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar on the North East Waters Community Webinar Series. We're the third one in the series that we're doing, and today's webinar, we're going to explore our price submission process. My name is Lisa Ryan, and I'm the Acting Managing Director of North East Water, while Joe Murdoch is on leave. I'm delighted to have you with us today. North East Water acknowledges the traditional owners of the lands and waters on which we operate and which we are meeting today. We pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people today. Before we get started, I'd just like to go over a few housekeeping items so that we have a smooth session today. I just want to note that all audience members have their cameras and microphones switched off for this webinar. And the webinar is being recorded and be available via our website after the session. We'll send you a link to access the recording afterwards, and you can also share this with others. We'd welcome and encourage you to ask questions. You can submit any questions at any time using the Q&A function, and we'll address as many questions as possible during the Q&A segment following the presentation. A little bit about North East Water, and I think there are a few key points that may be of interest to those present. Essentially, we plan for and provide critical water and sewage services to 39 towns across a 20,000 square kilometre region. We serve over 120,000 people, ensuring they have access to high quality, clean and safe water. We operate 21 water treatment plants and 22 wastewater treatment plants. Our extensive pipe network includes 1,300 kilometres of sewer mains and 1,800 kilometres of water mains. North East Water's assets are valued at $1.6 billion, and we are committed to investing in and maintaining our infrastructure to meet our current and future needs. We have one of the lowest water bills in Victoria and across the nation, with an average residential bill in 24-25 of around $1,040 per year. We are committed to using 100% renewable energy from 2025 and net zero emissions by 2035. We survey 2,000 customers a year, and from this, we know that customer satisfaction with our services is at 94%. I'd like to thank you all for our trust and support that our customers give us. And finally, we're proud to employ 208 local people who provide exceptional service and support to our community. Following a year of extensive engagement with customers and key stakeholders, North East Water is proud to introduce our new corporate strategy. Strategy 2040 articulates our vision for the future, a future where we will proactively foster a healthy environment, a thriving community, and a prosperous region. This strategy clearly defines our purpose: to deliver safe, sustainable water and wastewater solutions for our communities. Strategy 2040 is a direct response to the significant challenges posed by climate change, population growth, rapid technological advancement, and evolving customer and community expectations. Our approach focuses on ensuring a secure water future, transforming waste into valuable resources, valuing First Nations people, our customers and employees, and delivering services that are fair, accessible, and affordable. We envision a future where technology and data drive innovation and enhance service delivery, where partnerships, collaboration, and inclusive engagement lead to positive outcomes. It's a future where we continuously scan the horizon to stay ahead of trends and emerging issues, leveraging our services and infrastructure to support the prosperity of our region. Thank you once again for joining us today. I would now like to introduce my fellow presenters, Misty Howard, Manager of Strategy, Governance and Risk, and Nicholas Moore, General Manager of Corporate Strategy and Performance. Over to you, Nick.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. And thanks everyone for tuning into the webinar today. The price submission is a really important, generally a 5-year process for our water corporations throughout Victoria. But for us, we're in an 8-year process at the moment with our new prices being effective from 1 July 2026. So we're now preparing and engaging with our customers, particularly around our outcomes. Interesting to note that our Victorian Water Corporation, we're all regulated by the Essential Services Commission in Victoria, who effectively act as an independent umpire for essential services. This ensures that us as a water corporation can continue to provide safe and reliable water services while keeping prices also reasonable for our customers. Our price submission, in summary, looks at, to start with, we're trying to confirm our customer outcomes. So our customer outcomes developed over the community engagement period, which is now occurring over the next 6 months. Certainly, we've already commenced that over the last couple of months with some community pop-ups. Recently, over the last few weeks, we've got surveys open at the moment as well. But what we're trying to do is affirm that our current customer outcomes that we currently have are still relevant with our community, noting that the customer outcomes for the next price, for the current price submission were determined back in 2018 and 19. So it's been quite a while, and we've had a few changes. Climate variability is starting to impact on us as well. And when we do determine the customer outcomes, what will fall out will be some key measures that we'll have to report back to the Essential Services Commission each year. Secondly, on our operating and capital expenditure, the projections we use for our operating and capital expenditure are then assessed by the ESC as to whether the level of expenditure that we're proposing is prudent and efficient. So what do we mean by operating costs? So operating expenditure, they include key things such as labour, chemicals to treat water, and energy costs. So as you can imagine, a water corporation is a very intensive energy business in relation to where we need to pump our water. That's why you'll generally see water towers at the top of hills so they can gravity feed down into the community, into the town. Our capital expenditure program looks at what our investment needs are to renew our existing assets. So looking after the assets we have, which are valued at around $1.2 billion. What new assets we need to build to be able to support growth through our growing communities, and what new assets are required to meet our obligations around our safe drinking water and also our wastewater compliance. Once that operating and capital expenditure is assessed, our economic regulator determines that what the revenue requirement for our business is to run over generally a 5-year period. If our price submission is for 5 years from 1 July 26, the ESC will tell us that this is the amount of revenue you need to run your business for that period. From the revenue requirement, we then look at our tariffs and our proposed tariffs to determine how we structure our tariffs to actually get that revenue requirement for that pricing period. We also look at our service standards. So what I mean by service standards, they're our customer responsiveness. So, for example, calls answered within 30 seconds, or whether it's reliability out in the field, such as response times to bursts and leaks. The ESC will review that submission, consider the public feedback as well as part of that process, and then determine the prices we can charge. This process aims to balance the needs of customers and North East Water to ensure our prices are fair, reflect efficient costs, and meet our community expectations. This is just a slide in relation to one of our key levers is around our demand profile, so our sales. Once our revenue requirement is determined, or the last slide, we then need to determine with the regulator's approval the level of forecast consumption for our customers over that period. So you can see there the dark blue line on this graph looks at what our regulator set as our sales targets. So when we don't achieve those sales targets, so particularly in 2021, 22 and 23, particularly following the La Nina wet summers, we under-recover revenue. So what does that mean? That means we adversely affects our profitability as a business. So it doesn't mean we can come along next year and increase our prices to recover that revenue. Could be because the price path is generally fixed for a 5-year period. But that's a big challenge for the business, is to make sure that we get that sales profile correct. Where we've over-recovered revenue, so if you look back in around 2008-09, now where we hit levels of say 226 kilolitres per household, we're not seeing that now. We're also seeing impacts of price increases starting to impact on our demand levels as well. And where we've over-recovered revenue in the past, what we've done is we've usually frozen charges for the following year, returned some of that revenue back to customers, and we haven't passed on price increases. So that's all in the mix when we determine our tariffs. And one of the really important things around climate change and how volatile our sales are, as you can see that from that graph there. So yeah, that's a really important consideration for North East Water, is what our future demand profiles look like. Tariffs. So just in relation to tariffs, to provide some level of context, North East Water is and still remains one of the most affordable Victorian water corporations in regional Victoria. You can see there from the graph that approximately half of our bill is based on our volumetric charge, so our sales. We've got a fixed wastewater charge and a fixed water charge. So this is generally the average residential bill for our household. You can see there that our fixed charges, particularly wastewater, are quite low, but what we find is our wastewater costs are also quite expensive. So our cost to service infrastructure for wastewater, our operating cost to service our wastewater is quite expensive. So we'll be also having a look at that tariff mix and what price increases may be able to be passed on to customers. So the key challenges and considerations for our business. So there's several. We must balance strict compliance with the regulatory requirements of the Essential Services Commission, Department of Health, and the Environmental Protection Authority, who regulate our wastewater treatment plants. At the same time, it is essential that these align with our submission, and we also address our customers' expectations and priorities. Sustainability is at the forefront of our planning as climate challenges grow. We aim to integrate long-term environmental goals such as reducing emissions, improving water efficiency in our operations, and protecting the local environment. Operating within tight financial parameters is a constant challenge as well. We need to ensure that our services remain affordable for customers while managing the necessary investments in infrastructure, innovation to meet future demands. So this also includes our capacity to borrow. So we have a borrowing capacity that we have from the state, but we can't continue to borrow, and we have certain financial limits that we have to also operate within. So it also presents a challenge from a financial capacity to be able to do what we need to do. As the region continues to grow, our infrastructure must keep pace with increased demand and for water and sewage services. Population growth means that we must plan for capacity upgrades, expand our network, and consider long-term investments to support any new developments. We must also consider our vulnerable customers, so especially in the current economic climate, the cost of living, high interest rates, price rises. They can have a significant impact on our customers, and we must ensure that our prices remain fair for everyone. So in relation to the process, I'll now hand over to Misty in relation to providing some explanations around our current engagement process. Thanks, Misty.
Thank you, Nick. So what is the process? The ESC provides us with detailed guidelines outlining the requirements for our price submission, and this includes the regulatory framework we must adhere to and the expectations for our proposed prices and services. We then actively engage with our customers and communities to understand their needs, preferences, and priorities. This feedback is instrumental in shaping the submission. Using the guidance from the ESC and the feedback from our customers, we will develop a comprehensive price submission. This will detail our proposed prices, planned investments, and the service standards we aim to achieve over the next 5 years. Once our proposal is ready, we will submit it to the ESC for review. The ESC will assess our submission to ensure it meets regulatory requirements and provides value for money. So the diagram on the screen shows the 6 stages of engagement with our customers and communities during this process. Build foundations. This was the stage that involved the groundwork to build a foundation of knowledge from which further engagement could be developed. Activation was a mostly internal process where North East Water achieved alignment on the topics for engagement from an internal perspective. Exploration is a mostly external process where customer values are explored in a wide-ranging, mostly qualitative process. And valuation, this is where customer willingness to pay for the experiences they value is assessed in multiple ways. Deliberation involves customers coming together to decide what combination of service and price is right for the whole community. And finally, confirmation, where North East Water will close the loop with customers to provide assurance that its plans address the interests, concerns and priorities of our customers. We are currently at the end of the third stage, the exploration phase, where we are exploring our customers' interests, concerns and priorities. We will commence the valuation stage shortly, which will include a bill simulator, a priority survey and targeted customer focus groups. During this phase of our engagement process, we're revisiting the expectations and outcomes customers shared with us during our 2018 price submission. The 6 key outcomes are sustainable, affordable, responsive, reliable, efficient and local. We're keen to understand whether these expectations have evolved or remain consistent. This insight is critical to our engagement and will play a significant role in how we shape the submission. Throughout our price submission process, we've provided numerous opportunities for customers and communities to share their feedback on our water and sewer services. We've hosted 17 pop-up kiosks across our service region and conducted online focus groups with various customer segments, including older customers, renters, customers experiencing financial difficulty, customers living with a disability, new customers and younger customers. Our price submission process and engagement activities have been actively promoted across North East Water's 5 social media channels and various Facebook community pages throughout the region. Over 200 customers participated in an online survey, providing insights into their expectations for water and sewer services through 8 targeted questions. And there's still more engagement to come, including engagement with local First Nations groups and key stakeholders such as local governments, commercial and industrial customers and developers. We'll be launching a bill simulator, which will allow customers to explore how different scenarios or tariffs could impact their bill. There will be an additional priority survey to go out to customers and 5 more focus groups with targeted customer segments. We'll also convene a multi-day deliberative forum early next year to explore the feedback from all our engagement activities. It will be a 5-day forum and will involve over 40 participants from across North East Victoria. Participants will be chosen by an independent recruitment company and will be a representative sample of our community. The deliberative forum will develop a set of recommendations based on principles-based decisions, which will then be considered by the North East Water Board for inclusion in the price submission. Our community engagement process is well underway and is set to conclude by April next year. After that, we will prepare the draft price submission, which will be reviewed by our deliberative forum for feedback. In September, the final submission will be presented to the Essential Services Commission for review and open to public feedback. The ESC is then expected to return its price determination in early 2026. Once the ESC makes its final determination, our new pricing structure will be implemented from the 1st of July 2026. These prices will reflect the outcomes of this extensive engagement process and our commitment to delivering value for our customers. We will closely monitor our service standards and pricing throughout the regulatory period to make sure we are meeting the commitments laid out in the final determination. This includes tracking performance metrics such as reliability, customer satisfaction and affordability. We will report annually on our performance to the ESC and our customers. And that wraps up the overview of our price submission process. Back to you, Lisa.
Thanks, Misty, and thanks, Nick. Great presentation, which I think highlights the steps and the complexity to the price submission. Now I'd like to open the floor for our Q&A session, and I'm just going to go to the audience. I think we've got a couple of questions here. The first one we've got is from Donna. Will there be any changes to service levels such as water quality or reliability as a result of this price submission? I can say that's definitely not something that will be as part of our price submission, we're committed to our water quality and reliability, and the service levels are something that we constantly strive to meet, and definitely something that's important to us, particularly in the ESC. Nick, was there anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I'll just say, Lisa, that North East Water's service levels are already at the higher end of the state when we benchmark ourselves against our peers. So as far as our responsiveness to service interruptions, now, in fact, even during the last price submission period, which is 2018 to 24-25, which we're in now, as part of our deliberative process, then we actually relaxed some of our service standards. And acknowledging that, increasing in service standards, and this will be dependent on our customers, but if we do need to increase some of our levels of service, like respond to leaks and breaks more quickly, or for example, that it does drive increasing costs, which also drive impacts to customer bills. So that's something that we will look at quite carefully, but our customers and our deliberative process will determine the adequacy of our current levels of service, but we probably don't see material changes to those at this stage.
Great. Thanks, Nick. We've got another question from Jess. How will the price submission impact my water bill, and what steps are being taken to keep services affordable?
Yeah,
Nick, did you want to take
really
that?
Good.
Yeah.
That's a really good question, and I guess we've done some preliminary modelling. We've also done a very extensive capital master planning process, which is starting to inform our capital expenditure program for the next 5 to 10 years. Certainly, to service growth, maintain compliance, that we, particularly with our wastewater and treatment facilities, we're likely to see price increases. Now, I'll give you a bit of an example from 2013-14 to 2023-24. CPI has actually gone up. Prices have gone up. CPI has gone up 37.3%, but our prices have only gone up around 21%. And that's because in the earlier years, we had a lot of price freezes. We even had some price reductions. So we haven't been keeping pace with inflation, our prices, and those that out there that can understand, if you're not keeping pace with at least inflation over a longer term period, that's going to cause real financial sustainability issues. So we also have to balance that with our customers, our vulnerable customers as well, and how we can support those. So we also recognise that if we are going to have price increases, we'll most likely increase our customer support programs as well to our vulnerable customers.
Thanks, Nick. There was another question from an anonymous user around vulnerable customers. I think we've touched on that there, and obviously we'll provide them the support and the additional programs that they may need. We're also engaging with them pretty comprehensively as part of this process to understand where those concerns are, which I think, Misty, you touched on. I don't know if you wanted to expand a little bit on some of the work we're doing in that space.
Thank you, Lisa. So we have started some work earlier this year, actually running some engagement with customers experiencing financial difficulty and the support agencies for people, for vulnerable customers. And what came out of that, the feedback from those engagements is actually informing the development of a customer support plan, which is just being finalised as we speak. And that will come up with tools and measures to help those customers in needing financial assistance. And then all of that feedback is also informing our price submission. So we understand that we need to help those customers, especially if we're going to have price rises, and that group is very important to us, and we're doing everything we can to ensure that they're engaged throughout this process.
Thanks, Misty. And we've got one final question from Tyson around what investments are being made to address climate change, ageing infrastructure, and future growth in our region. Again, Nick, I think you touched a little bit on that with our capital program, but did you want to expand on any of the comments you made before?
Yeah, so that's pretty interesting, challenging question there, Tyson. I'll address climate change as the first one. I mean, under our statement of obligations that we have with the state government, we are required to be 100% renewable by 30th of June 2025. and have net zero emissions by 2035. So this means that a large proportion of our investments to address climate change are actually occurring in this current price period. For example, this includes a $75 million investment in our capacity and our emissions reductions upgrade at our West Wodonga wastewater treatment plant, which is going to occur over the next 2 years, so largely complete in this price period, which is already on top of a 3 megawatt solar plant that operates at that facility and drives the operational and energy uses of that plant during the day. And you can certainly find out more about that program or those programs on our website in relation to a number of climate change projects that we have. Ageing infrastructure is always a challenge, and we set aside separate capital renewal funding to look at our below ground assets. So below ground assets traditionally a pipe network. A lot of pipes built, getting to that sort of 70 to 80 years. So we always got a continuous renewal program to maintain our pipe network. We also have challenges with renewing of above ground infrastructure. So our wastewater treatment plants, our water treatment plants is also included in that capital renewal program. So we try and address that with the assets that we currently have and try and look after those as well. So that's a challenge. I think you heard earlier that we had over 20 water and wastewater treatment plants, which is spread across 38 towns. To support growth, we're now finalising our master plans for 15 townships, which is also, we've also added incorporating new housing targets and other factors from the state government. This includes prioritisation of a 10 and 20-year capital investment plan and involves engagement with our councils, and also our developers are crucial in that as far as new customer contributions and the sharing those costs of development. Total estimated investment based on our master planning shows in the next 10 years is over $1 billion. So we can't obviously address or afford that. That's against what we previously modelled around 530 million. So we can't do everything all at once, and we need to phase our investments over a longer term period. So we need to make sure that we're not investing too early and our customers having to pay for that. So we need to be very clear around our prioritisations for capital investment and what our customers can afford and what our business can afford as well from a borrowing capacity. So that's all in the mix when we look around our investment profile. And the other thing that we're actually doing now is we're continuing to aggressively pursue grant funding and other revenue opportunities for the immediate future to support our customers as far as not having to rely 100% on customer bills, which is traditionally how the sector is funded. So sorry, a bit of a long answer there, but hopefully that addresses the question.
It had many parts, that question, so thanks, Nick. Great answer. And look, that's all the questions we've got today. So I'm guessing if there are no other questions from the audience, look, thank you all for coming. We appreciate your support and your involvement in the webinar today and your participation, and we wish you all a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.